Morning, Harold.
Hi, Ernie. What's going on over there?
Been an eating fest last night. We went to a place in Jerusalem called the Pit Master. Unbelievable.
Really,
It's a
so good.
It's a show from 8 till 11 o'clock.
Where is it? Where in Jerusalem is it?
It's in Cinema City. You know, there's a new mall in the entrance to the city that has movie theaters.
Oh, yeah, I know.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you now. Yeah, I have a whole bunch of people here. So,
Ariella.
yeah. But the food is good?
I have my own. Let me. You're sleeping where? Okay. Good idea. I have to put 1 second.
Hi, Evie.
I have to get some earpods. 1 second.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
1 second.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Hi, Harold. Your beard is getting whiter because of the snow?
Dandruff. I have dandruff of the beard.
Oh. Oh.
I'm just trying to connect my these things.
You're calling through the iPad?
No, I'm trying to connect my,
No, but are you connecting with the iPad or the computer?
my laptop.
Go to settings and Bluetooth.
I'm there.
Oh,
It won't connect. I don't know why.
are they on? Sometimes you have to press the button
Oh,
on the box. And the light has to blink.
right. It did.
Mhm.
Oh, here we go.
Okay.
Oh, no, that's Ariella's. I'm sorry. Hang on. 1 second. Huh? They're not these things are not working.
Close it and start your share. I don't care. You don't care. You do you. Well,
Okay. Maybe it has to be plugged in. I don't know what it has to do. Yeah.
Mario, are you in Japan at the Cherry Festival?
Oh, I didn't realize that. Yeah, I don't know what happened.
It's beautiful wherever it is.
Okay,
Hmm.
we're on pay Omid Bays on the bottom. 80 on the bottom. Turn around bottom. Asoret Noim Hisna Yoshua. Yoshua made 10 rules, conditions when they came into Eretz Israel. Shiyu Marian B'Chorshin, the people were allowed to plow. People were allowed to take their animals and graze them in forests, small forests. And if you were an owner of the forest, you couldn't throw them out. Balaktim eitzim b'sadusayim, if you could take wood from other people's fields, and the owner of the field couldn't prevent you from taking it. By the way, the Gemara is going to teach us limitations to those rules. People could harvest grass from anywhere except if it was in a field of watercress. Watercress needed grass. So if you weren't allowed to take grass from other people's fields if it was watercress. Koitmim Natias, you were allowed to, if you saw like a young branch from someone's tree and you want to cut it off so you could plant a new tree in your backyard or to do a graft to one of your trees, you were allowed to do it. Even without the permission of the owner. Chutz migrufios sholzayis, except young branches of olive trees. That was damaging to them, so you weren't allowed to do that. If all of a sudden a new spring, a water spring opened up in a city, everyone could use it. let's say the spring had been found on a person's private property. So the owner of the private property could not prevent the general population from using the spring. You could fish in the Galilee. Now we're going to see the Galilee was owned by Shevet Naphtali. So the people from Shevet Naphtali could not prevent people from coming to fish in the Galilee. Walter, we're on Pei Aleph, Amud Aleph, 81, near the top. We're talking about 10 takonos that Yoshua did when they came into Eretz Yisrael. Uluvachli Yifras Kala, you couldn't set up a net, the Loyami de Sasfina, you couldn't put a boat there. Okay, the Nifnin Lachre Ageder. If you were walking on the road and you had to go to the bathroom, you could go to the bathroom in someone's private field right next to the fence privately. And you were permitted to do that. Vafilu besodom leb karkum, even in a field full of sesame. And the halacha here is telling you, the chiddush is you could take a piece of rock that people used to use to clean themselves, and you could use a rock from the fence or from the field. That would not be a problem. Then mahalchin b'shvilei harishus. If there were private roads in a person's private field, the owner of the field couldn't prevent people from using the private roads. Ad sheterid b'rviya shniya, until it got very rainy, the second rainy season, because if you walked on the roads, you would damage the grain that was in the field. Now, let's say there was a primary road, and then on the side of the road, you would enter someone's private field. You're allowed to go to the side of the road. Mipnei yitedut hadrachim, because of public transportation. V'chein hatoa bein hakramim. If a person was stuck in a vineyard, and it's like a lot of branches, you get lost. So mafsig v'ola, mafsig v'yored, you were allowed to use like a machete to cut the branches so you could get out of there. V'chein shemeis mitzvah koinim koimai. If someone died, a corpse, and it doesn't have anyone to bury it, and it's in a field somewhere, you were it had the permission to be buried where it is. The body of the meis mitzvah takes the place that it is, and the owner of the field could not prevent it. Okay, so now the Gemara is going to analyze each one of these takanos. Shiyu Marin B'chorshin. The first takana was that you could take your sheep and goats and graze them in small forests. Amrav Papaloya Maran, Ella Daka B'yargas. It's only a small animal in a very thick forest with a lot of mature trees. Aval Daka, but a small animal in a small forest where the trees are very small, Ogasa Begasa, or a big animal in a big forest, no. The Kolsha came Gasa Bedaka, and certainly not a big animal in a small forest, because it's going to damage it more. Okay, then there was a Takona Malaktin Eitzim Misadusei. You could gather firewood from people's private fields, and the owner of the field couldn't prevent the public from doing so. Loya moron ela behizmi v'higi. These are small thorns that you want to use for firewood. Aval b'shar eitzim, but mature oaks, pine, maple, trees that are going to use cedars for lumber. Low. The Hizmi Vihigi, the Bala Soda was mafkirid. They didn't establish ownership in it. They basically gave it away. But if it was a big tree, they wouldn't be allowed to do that. Va'afil b'hizmi v'higi lo amarin elav mechubarin. When it says that you could pick up thorns, it's only thorns that are connected to the ground. Aval betlushim, if they've already been picked from the ground, low, because probably the owner of the field has done that, and he's not been mafkir those, so that you're not allowed to take. And even the thorns that are connected to the ground, permitted to take them only if they're moist. Low. But dry ones, no, because the owner would not be mafkir that. And bilvad shlo yisharish, you cannot completely uproot the roots of the thorns from their place, because that would permanently damage something that doesn't belong to you. But you could, I guess, come in there with a pair of scissors and cut the tips off of the thorns and use them for firewood. Okay, another takana, malaktin asabim b'chol makom. You could gather grass, no matter where it is, chutz mistet tilsim, except for watercress. L'meimer hatilsim malal asavim. So that seems to imply that grasses are good for watercraft. Very many. I'll show you that's not true. Tilsim also imine asabim. Watercress that grew, and there's a whole bunch of grasses around it. We're not required to uproot the grasses because of a din of climb, like hybrid species, because the grasses do damage to the watercress and you don't want to keep it. So that's why there's no din that you have to uproot it for climb. So why do we say that passerbyers can uproot grasses? It looks like grass is bad for watercress. Amrav Yomi lo kasha kan. It depends why the tilson's being grown. One is for the seeds, right? Zera. The kan lazirin to the stalks. Right? Lazera kashul for seeds. The grass is bad for it. Because it weakens the seeds. So there, you're not mechuyev to get rid of the grasses because of cloying. But lazirin malin law. But for the stalks, grass is good. Like the grasses support the shoots and the stalks of the watercress. They like lean on the grass. So there is when Yoshua said you're not allowed to uproot those grasses. Iboy Seimot. Another answer. Kan, when the grasses are not good for watercress, that's the tzorach adam. When you're growing the watercress for human consumption. But kan, when we say that the grasses are good for the tilson, and there Yoshua did prevented us from taking it, is when you're growing the tilson lebehema. Law. Since it's for behemoths, grass, the animals eat the grasses too. You're making a field so that your animals can graze there. So there it would be negative if you pulled the grass away from the watercress. How do we know when you look at a field if the watercress is being grown for human consumption or for animal consumption? Amar of Papa, Shari Mashari. If you make rows, so then la'adam, lo shar mishar, if it's made as one field without rows, then it's Michael Behema. Okay. Another condition, if you were walking along a road and you saw nice branches from another tree, from a field that doesn't belong to you, and you could use it to graft that branch onto one of your trees or to put it into the ground to start a new tree. So you're allowed to do it. Even though there's a heter, with bezayis, beitza. You have to leave at least a beitza worth below, connected to the ground, at least a beitza. Otherwise, you're going to destroy the acre tree. And if you're going to cut the kamim ukafanim, minapkak ulamalo. There's like the trees have knots from where they're cut from. So you have to leave everything above the knot. Ushar kolinos, that's all of that is by olives. By other trees, you can take branches min oivoy. You can take branches from any direction, shel ilim, but v'lo min chudo shel ilim, but not from the chudo, the very thick, Rashi says, thick branches, like a finished tree, because then you're going to destroy the tree. And even when you're going to take it from the oivoy, that's hachodosh. That's branches that grew that year. Sheino isoperis, because fruit doesn't grow yet. Velomin yoshin shu isoperis, and you were not allowed to take a branch that already was producing fruit. And you could only take from a branch b'mokum she'ena roas achamo. You can only take it opposite from the side of where the sun was shining on the tree, because if the ones that are shining towards the sun, the branches that are pointed towards the sun, are too valuable. That's the important part of the tree, because the sun is ripening the fruits that are on those branches and cause the fruit to become sweet. So you see the tfu is connected to the sun shining on it. 1 second, I just have to get a napkin. 1 second. Okay, we're on Pei Aleph on the base. Umayana, you would say Tchila bnei ha'ir mistapkim mimenu. A spring, a new spring of water, so the whole population could use it, even though the spring had started flowing from a private field. The owner of the private field couldn't prevent people from getting water. But you have to pay the owner of the field money. It's not that you can take the water for free. He could charge you for it, for its value. Couldn't overcharge. So, but if he wanted water, he could take water. The owner of the field where the spring was couldn't prevent the person from taking the water. However, les hilchas kavose, the halacha is not like that, and the people could take the water for free. You were not forced to pay anything for the water. Machakan b'yam shel Tveria, you're allowed to fish in the Galilee. But there were restrictions. You couldn't cast nets. You couldn't put a boat there. You could use smaller implements. Initially, there was a condition that you wouldn't cast nets and you wouldn't put a boat there. But you could fish with smaller nets and things like that. The Shevet of Naphtali owned the Galilee. It had also a piece of land towards the south. Yam v'darom Yerusha, because when Moshe Rabbeinu gave a blessing to Shevet Naphtali in Zosa Bracha, he said the Yam has to have a darom Yerusha, has to have even the southern section. Tanya, Omer, Tolshin Shebaharim, the trees that have fallen down on the mountain, they're not still rooted in the ground. So everyone can take it, even though the mountain belongs to a certain shevet. Now, if the tree is planted in the ground, so that still belongs to the owner of the shevet. So every shevet had within their territory mountain, plain, desert, and valley. Shneimar. It says in the pasuk, Pnu sulachem, ubo harim ariva kol shchinav, barava bahar uvashvela uvanegev v'chofayam, eretz haknani v'avanon, adanar gadol nahar prat. Re'ei natati livnechem et haaretz, bo'u urshu et haaretz. So based on that pasuk, the Shvatim had these different types of territories in their chelek. So these Canaanite peoples had the same thing. Even the neighbors had it. So the Shchenim had the same land. Then we said, you were allowed to go to the bathroom. Even in a sesame field. Swore. The heter is that you could take a piece of rock to clean yourself with, and the owner of the field couldn't prevent that. Even on Shabbos. Like if you took it from the fence, it's not considered that you were soiser the fence. There's a lav on Shabbos of like tearing something down. As long as the Ravid says it wasn't cemented into place. Or other people say, if you picked a rock up from the ground, so that would be muktzah. So there's no din muktzah if you're using it to clean yourself. Because of kavod abrius. We know there's a concept for kavod abrius is that you violate every drabanan. Since muktzah is drabanan, then they remove that isser. Marzutra Chasida, Shakel Umahader, he took a stone, cleaned himself, and put it back into the fence. But then he told his servant that the next day, go with cement and cement it in tomorrow. Because not on Shabbos, because he was afraid that the rock would fall out of the fence and do damage to somebody. If there was a private road in someone's private field, so you were allowed to walk through it as long as it wasn't after the second rainy season. because we said then it would damage the field. Amrav Papa, V'hai Dan in Bavel, afilu tal kashila, even dew that falls every day is going to damage, and therefore you can't walk through the fields in Babylonia once the dew falls. If there's some kind of obstruction in the road, you could move over to the sides of the road, even though you're entering private property. Shmuel, Rav Yehuda, Shmuel and Rav Yehuda were walking. Shmuel moved to the side of the road. Amarle Rav Yehuda, so this was a Tanai established in Eretz Yisrael, not in Bavel. And you, Shmuel, are relying that here in Bavel, Amarle, Sha'ani, I say, Ani Oimer, Afilu b'chutz la'aretz. This is a condition for civilization, for civilized societies. That is, that you can move to the side of the road. It has nothing to do with Eretz Yisrael. Rabbi Vrachia were walking. And it was hard to walk in the middle of the road. They both moved to the sides. Hava Kamafsia, the also Rav Yehuda ben Knusa Kamayu. Rav Yehuda ben Knusa was walking in front of them. And he took very big steps, and he was walking in the middle of the road. Taking big steps like that was not walking humbly. It looks like he's like a Yehura, like he's walked like a big Talmid Chacham. I think he's my student. He was a chassid, and he's doing it not out of haughtiness, but out of Shem Shemayim. And then when they got up to him, they saw, or Rabbi saw, Amarle Ilad Yehuda ben Knusiat, I would put you in the cherem because of person. You shouldn't behave this way. Okay, another condition. Hatoya ben Akramim. Somebody got lost in a very thick vineyard. You can't get out. Mafsik v'yored, mafsik v'oila. You're allowed to take a machete and cut the branches so you can get back into the road. If you see a friend lost, you're allowed to go in there too to help him. Mafsik v'oila, mafsik v'yored, until you save him. Or he can do it himself. Now, my makomo, what's this added thing? Where he himself can do it for himself. And that's a big chiddush. But I mean, what you already said, if somebody else can come in and get you, you certainly could do it yourself. Toye, lechavero, Udiyada, Lecha, because you know where the road is, so you can go in, go and help him. So there's a heter. Misagdi nifsig. Avalhu, the guy who's trapped in the vineyard, he doesn't know where he's going. Maybe loy nifsig. Nadir kimetzri. He doesn't know where he's cutting, so he shouldn't cut. He has to walk around until he finds a road. Kamashmalan didn't know he's allowed to cut as well. Now, this halacha that we just learned, that you're allowed to cut the vineyards to get out, why do you say this was a takana of Yoshua? Deraisahu. It's a deraisa. The Tanya. There's a din of hashavas aveda. If somebody loses something, you have a chiyuv to return it. Deraisahu the korban meitzri. I'm sorry. The Tanya hashavas guf minayin. How do you know that you are allowed to help somebody, let's say, get out of from being lost? Talmud Lamed v'hashevo so means you can not just you have to return a lost object, you have to return this person himself. So midaraisa, it's only the koi be mitzri. Person is on the border of a area of a field. So there you have a mitzvah to help him. Also, who tikim. So, but by Yoshua came and said, even if you were in the middle of the vineyard itself, not just by the border, because there you could cause damage to somebody else. Mafsik v'oil mafsik v'yored. Then we say meis mitzvah kana makom. We said a meis mitzvah can be buried wherever the corpse is lying, even if it was on private property. But let's see meis mutal be'istera. If a mace was found in the middle of Olympic Boulevard, you don't bury it in the middle of Olympic, you move it over to the side. Or Sada Bur, if it was a field that had not been plowed yet, and the Sada near, and there's a plowed field, the Sada Bur. You don't move the corpse and bury it in the plowed field, you move it in the field that's not plowed. Sada near is Sada there. If it's a plowed field, and a field that has had seeds put into it, near. You don't bury it where the seeds are. So they were both the same. You can move the corpse wherever you want. So it's not true that the Meis Mitzvah acquires its makom. The Amr of Bibi, the Meisha Mutal al Meitzer. If it's on the border, can't bury it there, so then you have to move it. So then, since you have permission then to move it, you could move it wherever you want. But if it was found not on the Meitzer, then it's correct that it acquires the place where it is. So the Gemara asks, Amri, Asora? Hani Chatzari, if you count, there's not 10, there's 11. So Mahalchim B'Shulei Rishus, Shlomo Amra. The din that you were allowed to walk in public roads, Shlomo Melech, not Yoshua, Keditanya. Harei shekalu perosav in asada. There are no fruits in a field, and it's empty. Person's not allowed to take a shortcut through somebody's field. If somebody does that, it's zen nene v'zila chaser. Why wouldn't, if your field doesn't have any fruit in it, why shouldn't you allow somebody to go through? What damage is he doing? And Shlomo HaMelech cursed him, don't be called a Rasha if you can do good for a person. Umiksiv, Miyos Tov al Tikra Ra, is that written in Ksiv Ki Gavna? It's not exactly like that. It says in Mishlei, Al Timna Tov Mi Balo, don't prevent good from its owner. Biyos Le'al Yad Chalasos, if you have in your power to do it. So this permission to take shortcuts through people's field, it's already Shlomo Melech. The Su, Leka, and were there no other takonos established by Yoshua? Just these 10? The Ha'ika Rav Yehuda. The Torah Yehuda Rav Shasva says following: if you could take your grasses that you were harvesting and your dung, and you could put it into the street and let it sit there. You could pile it up and leave it there for 30 days. Because you wanted people to step on it. And it helps. This is for your fertilizer. This is one of the reasons that Yoshua gave land to the Shvatim. So l'chora, this is also a takana of Yoshua. The Tanya tonight based in who it's a condition. An owner of a field cannot just go into your neighbor's field and cut a branch Oh, a person could go into a field if he had a beehive there. If he's cutting a branch to save his beehive, he's allowed to do that. The you have to pay. Oh, the beehive was owned by the neighbor. So if you needed the branch, you could take the branch, but you have to pay him for the beehive. My best news is I have a barrel of wine, and I see that my friend's barrel of honey, which is more valuable, is spilling. I'm allowed to dump my wine, umatzil divshono shel chavero, so that the honey that's pouring out of my friend's barrel could go into the barrel, so I can prevent him from losing tons of money. And then I'm allowed to ask for payment. I just lost my wine, so I can get paid back from the honey, even though the guy didn't tell him in advance. Oh, I'll give you money to do this. No, you can do it right away. So I best in Ushiyezeh, Mefocus eights of the Toyin Pishtono Shel Chavero, right? You're supposed to help your friend if you see that there's too big of a burden on the back of an animal. So I can remove trees from my donkey, the toin pishtosh over, and I can load up the flax of my friend to save it. The noitled me'etz mitoch pishtosh over, but I got rid of my wood, so I have a financial loss. I can get paid from the flax of the friend. These are public benefit laws that Yoshua was misaken. So the Gemara answers, these when the takonos of Yoshua that were enunciated by private people like Rav Yehuda or Rav Shmuel, but is not included in the 10. Okay. So let me describe. So it's called the Pit Master. You cannot get reservations to this. There's like 250 people in this massive restaurant.